Good evening, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us today. Welcome to the second annual Raquel Rubio Goldsmith Lecture in Ethnic Gender and Transborder Studies. As you know, tonight we present world-acclaimed poet, writer, author, musician Joy Harjo, along with some very special performances by our own Pima Community College students. And my name is Dr. Suzanne Destard, and I am the Dean of Social Sciences and Student Affairs.
And I am Bardo Padilla, faculty member in Spanish and Mexican American Studies. We will be your mistress and mister of ceremonies for the evening. Nayona Smith will open our event this evening with a blessing ceremony. A proud Tohono O'odham, Nayona graduated from the University of Arizona with her bachelor's degree in American experiences. She recently wrote the book, Plants That Heal, Conserving Indigenous Knowledge. Nayona is a Tohono O'odham culture teacher at Indian Oasis Elementary School in South Arizona, which she enjoys along with teaching, traveling to dance powwow all over the United States and Canada as a jingle dress dancer and singing Native American songs. Nayona maintains positive balance by always participating in traditional ceremonies with her family. Please help us welcome Nayona Smith.
Skukudunik, Anyap Chugik, Nayona Smith, Hun Autumn Chugik, Iwak Hahak, Hun Sapantad, Map the Muichapitada Ia, Map the Moju, the Haika, Ida Nantkomas, Autumn, Chugik, Joy Harjo, Dosimat, Gufkadak, Skuki Wumkadak. Hello, good evening. My name is Nayona Smith, and I'm a proud member of the Tohono Nation. We are the original people here, and I'd like to welcome you all here. Thank you. And thank you for giving me the honor to say the invocation, and I would like to share a song. This song talks about the Kihotuak Mountain. It is the burden basket, the Lady Burden Basket Mountain. And I would like to share this song for you all. And I also would like to welcome, once again, each and every one of you to our wonderful land, Strukshon. And right now I will be saying the invocation in my first language, and then I will share the burden basket song. Please stand. Siadik tagyo, hudinik tagyo, wakarim tagyo, winyam tagyo, natokam itoy, mtosimat, skuki wumkadak, skuki gufkadak, achi mapi, wasi hilma pa iya, map the moskuko, haicho oka, ida uf map, jugik, joy harjo, mtosimat, wumkadak, skuk gufkadak, map hubi aigo, o amjud, joy, the omak, skuki wumkadak, idam map, upi, iju ida, Ida kukura marshamakut, matosis mak skuki wumkadak. Idam aad map, idam up map, marsham iya, kukura marshamakut. Pima Community College, Josh Dong Natakam itoy. The mak skuki wumkadak, skuk apadak. Oh, amen. Wasi Joy Harjo to all my relations. Hiyong itono wanga shudani madikonya chun hamata kiwa kon hamawai wai wanyai na chahi mata pa wai hel sing wan chahi mata Kiyong itono wanga shutani marikonya chun hamaka kiwa kon hamawai wai wanyai na chahi mata pa wai hel sing wan chahi mata Shutani mari konya chan hamaka kiwam. Con hama wai wanyai na chahi matam. Ba wai hell sing a si chahi matam. Shutani mari konya chan hamaka kiwa. Con hama wai wanyai na chahi matam. Ba wai hell si chahi matam. Thank you.
Thank you so very much, Nayona. Just a quick reminder, there is no flash photography allowed. If you can please make note of that. I have the distinct honor of welcoming our provost, Dr. Dolores Duran Cerda. Since 2005, Dolores has been our acting provost, and in July 2017, she became our permanent provost here at Pima Community College. Dolores has a PhD in Latin American literature and history from the University of Arizona, and she has served Pima Community College for 20 years, starting here as a faculty member in world languages. Dolores, in her role as provost and executive vice chancellor for academic and student success in the college, leads many initiatives focusing on student success, community engagement, and diversity. We are so thrilled to have her here to do our welcoming event. Thank you. Dolores?
Thank you, Dr. Desjardins. Good evening. Welcome. Bienvenidos. I'm Dr. Dolores Duran Cerda, as Dr. Desjardins said, provost of Pima Community College and a former faculty member here for 10 years in the World Languages Department at the downtown campus. On behalf of the college, I would like to welcome all of you to the second annual Raquel Rubio Goldsmith Lecture in Ethnic, Gender, and Transborder Studies with the award-winning poet, writer, and musician, Joy Harjo. We are so honored to have Joy Harjo with us tonight. It is an evening that is sure to delight and inspire us with her reading and her performance. In addition to writing poetry, Joy is a noted teacher, saxophonist, and vocalist. She performed for many years with her band Poetic Justice and currently tours with Aerodynamics. This event, which is hosted by the Ethnic, Gender, and Transborder Studies Department, is a huge, huge accomplishment for us. We have been wanting to have this department for many years, and it's finally come into fruition. And it's responsive. This event and all the work that our faculty do is responsive to our new diversity plan that's with the college. The college has never had a diversity plan nor a diversity officer, and now we have both, and we're very, very pleased with that. These kinds of events that nurture our souls are for our students as well. We want to represent them, and we want to make sure that they get the support that they need at the college. I feel that I'm an educator at heart and always will be, even though I'm in administration. I feel that I'm a teacher at heart. And we want to instill education and cultural competence in not only our underrepresented and marginalized students, but all students at the college. Here I taught, as I said, in the World Languages Department, but I also taught Mexican American Studies. My dissertation had an emphasis in poetry, Latin American poetry, from Marjorie Agosin, who was a poet that wrote about women and silence and how silence can be a voice too, in opposition to dictatorships. For example, in Argentina, if you're familiar with the Madres de la Plaza de Mayo, who circle around the plaza in front of their equivalent of the White House, they march in silence, which combats the silence of the government that has not told them where their husbands and children are. So all of this is important to recognize our heritage, all of our heritages, and learn about each other. I just went to a conference last week. It was called the HACU Conference. It's a Hispanic Association of Colleges and Universities. And there are Latino administrators, and there were students there, with student track, staff, etc. It was a wonderful, inspiring conference to see all of our Latino leaders and all the different diversity issues that we discussed and talked about in our sessions, such as recruiting and retaining diverse faculty, and also about immigration and what it means to be at an institution where the possibility of somebody coming looking for somebody. So we are very protective of our students, and we want to help and support them in every way possible. I would like to also thank PIMA's Department of Ethnic, Gender, and Transborder Studies, who worked very hard to coordinate and organize this very special event. Let's give them a round of applause. And I'd like to end with a quote from Joy Harjo that I think is very appropriate for this evening and the times that we're in right now. All acts of kindness are lights in the war for justice. Thank you.
Dante states, "In the city of Tucson, I'm known as a student pursuing an associate's degree in Administration of Justice Studies at Pima Community College by the name of Dante Figueroa. 370 miles up north near Flagstaff, Arizona, I'm a snake and sand clan of the Hopi tribe, in which the community knows me by Wikvaya, from the village of Misongnovi. We present to you Dante Figueroa to perform a Hopi blessing song."
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Nợ wik bài young Hopi Matsua. Nợ tương wong nợ masang na vikita. My name is Dante Figueroa. I am taking a stand from the village of Masangnavi, and tonight I would like to sing you guys a Hopi blessing song. Away, oh, hey, nay, ya, asquale, volo mane, asquale, away, oh, hey, nay, ya, asquale, volo mane. Asquale, howe, oh, hey, nung wa big by it the one at the cru. Vanu ya, wa pata wa mana, we me lo makatsi ta wa watakwe. Asquale, lolo mane, asquale, howe, oh, hey, yo, hey, ya, we, yo, hey, ya, asquale, lolo mane. Asquale, howe, oh, hey, yo, hey, nay, yo. Asquale, lolo mane. Asquale, howe, oh, hey, yo, hey, nay, yo. The translation of the song is sending out prayers to everybody to have a long, happy happy, healthy life. Thank you. Kokoi.
Thank you very much for the presence of the person that this event is named after, la señora Raquel Rubio Goldsmith. Sí, un aplauso, por favor. We have her here in the audience. La doctora Raquel Rubio Goldsmith. I was her student once in one semester, and she made a huge impact. Not just in Mexican American studies, but women's studies and things that are making the invisible visible. Gracias. Thank you for your presence and your knowledge.
So as you heard, our wonderful event tonight has been organized by our most awesome faculty of the Ethnic Gender Transborder Studies Department, which is a new department formed under our college reorganizational structure this year. But we have a brand new degree, the liberal arts degree with a concentration in ethnic gender transborder studies. And we're so thrilled to tell you about it. So please help me in welcoming the head of our department, Dr. Francisca James Hernandez, and Chris Rodriguez, who is our program advisor.
Good evening. Buenas tardes. Is this on? This one's on? Good evening. Buenas tardes. Ya'ate. Thank you to my colleague, Greg, who has taught me Ya'ate. Ethnic Gender and Transborder Studies became an academic department at Pima Community College just this semester. Establishing this department demonstrates Pima's commitment to diversity, as our provost was mentioning, and evidence-based student success.
As many of you know, the research literature shows that students in diverse studies courses and programs maintain better grades, stay in school, and graduate at higher rates.
Diversity studies, and especially ethnic studies, in particular, close the achievement gap between students of color and white students, and they cultivate value and respect for difference and diversity among all groups.
Diversity studies attend to the changing demands of a globalized economy and workforce, and they are found to enhance civic engagement.
As elsewhere, ethnic gender and transborder studies, or as we like to call it very lovingly, EGGS, at Pima provides an interdisciplinary study of the histories, cultures, socioeconomic concerns, politics, and identities of people of color and people of multiple genders and sexualities on their or our own terms. It explores the stories, social movements, diasporas, and achievements of historically marginalized peoples in the United States while attending to transborder and global perspectives.
At Pima, EGTS offers a concentration in the liberal arts degree with courses in American Indian Studies, Gender and Women's Studies, inclusive of LGBTQ, Transgender Global Studies, and Mexican American Studies, as we hope to offer African American and Asian Pacific Islander studies in the not too distant future.
EGTS prepares students to become agents of change in their communities, in institutions, and in the world on behalf of social justice.
So what are you waiting for? And really, what are you waiting for? Registration began on Monday, please enroll at www.pima.edu and change the world. Our Springs offerings are on flyers on the tables at the sign-in table. The Raquel Rubio Goldsmith lecture is Ethnic Gender and Transborder Studies is becoming one of the 2 signature events over the past 2 years. The other one is the EGTS Summit in the spring, that this will be in March 9th. This will be March 9th of next year, so mark your calendars. And we will have even bigger plans for the next 2 years. With your help, we are working to establish an Ethnic Gender and Transborder Studies Center of Excellence by 2019.
We named this lecture series in honor of one of the faculty founders of Pima Community College and one of the faculty or scholarly mothers of Ethnic, Gender, and Transborder Studies here and nationally, as Bardo Padilla mentioned before, Raquel Rubio Goldsmith, who's sitting over there. Professor Goldsmith is joining us tonight along with her husband, another icon of the Tucson arts and theater community, Barclay Goldsmith. So I know you've already given it up for them once before, but we can always give it up at least twice in one night, right, for them?
Thank you, Raquel and Barclay. And thanks to everyone here for sharing this special night with us. We turn the mic now over to Rosalia Solorzano, herself one of the pioneers of Mexican American and Chicana studies in the United States and a sociologist on faculty now in her 21st year at Pima. Professor Solorzano will introduce our honored guest this evening, Joy Harjo. Thank you.
Please give us a round of applause for Watona. She's going to perform her jingle dance.
Hey,
And now for our star of the evening.
We're going to introduce Rosalía Solórzano because she's going to introduce our teacher class.
Maria Solórzano, who is the head of our Mexican American Studies Department. She is our discipline coordinator.
Buenas noches a todos. Good evening. It looks wonderful. Se ven lindos y lindas todos y todas. Muchas gracias por estar aquí con nosotras y por tener la gentileza de darnos un poquito de su tiempo y del amor que tienen sobre la diversidad, la equidad y la inclusión. Thank you so very much for being here and giving us a little bit of that space that is so important for all of us, but that you give with so much love, you know, in trying to strengthen diversity, equity, and inclusion. It is indeed, you know, a wonderful moment, you know, for all of us to be here tonight and have Joy Harjo, you know, to share with all of us her poems, which are, you know, houses for the spirits, as she tells us. Joy Harjo is a major figure in contemporary American poetry, recognized this year with a prestigious Ruth Lilly Poetry Prize for outstanding lifetime achievements in poetry, which also comes with a $100,000 award. Her work draws, more power to Joy, great. Her work draws on Native American storytelling and histories, as well as feminist and social justice poetic traditions, and frequently incorporates indigenous myths, symbols, and values into her writing. Born in Tulsa, Oklahoma, Harjo is a member of the Muskogee Creek Nation. Her 8 books of poetry include Conflict Resolution for Holy Beings, How We Became Human, New and Selected Poems, and She Had Some Horses. Harjo's memoir, Crazy Brave, won the PEN USA Literary Award for Creative Nonfiction and the American Book Award, among other national awards. 9 of her books are on sale. During this reception, go for them, get them, and get Joy to sign them and bless them, you know, with a little bit of her essence, you know, on those books. So that among Harjo's many prestigious awards in the 2015 is the 2015 Wallace Stevens Award from the Academy of American Poets for proven mastery in the art of poetry. The, as we Chicanos would say, the Guggenheim Fellowship, the William Carlos William Award from the Poetry Society of America, the United States Artist Fellowship, and she is a 2-time winner of the National Book Award. In 2014, she was inducted into the Oklahoma Hall of Fame. In addition to writing poetry, Harjo is a noted teacher, saxophonist, and vocalist. A renowned musician, Harjo performs with her saxophone nationally and internationally, solo and with her band, the Aerodynamics. She has 5 award-winning music CDs, including Red Dreams, A Trail Beyond Tears, and Winding Through the Milky Way, which won a Native American Music Award for the Best Female Artist of the Year in 2009. Harjo is a founding board member of the Native Arts and Cultures Foundation and is currently Professor and Chair of Excellence in Creative Writing at the University of Tennessee, Knoxville. So before, I tell you how proud I am of being here and having an opportunity to once again convene with Joy Harjo, my dear friend of more than 3 decades, and a sister, for our families. I'd like to thank Professor Cecilia Lewis of Cochise College. Let's show some hands here. Where are you guys? Good. Yeah, come on. They drove, with tenacity and with heart. Thank you, Cecilia. And Dr. Ana Ochoa O'Leary. Where are you, Ana? And Professor Brooke Anderson and students. Where are you? So, with great pride and humility, please help me welcome to the PCC proscenium stage, Joy Harjo.
Muchas gracias, or as we say in the Muskogee language, Mado, and what an incredible circle here of all of us, and what a celebration with all of these beautiful prayers and performances that are prayers also. It's really amazing, and that's how it should be. Really, that's how it should be, and I'm really grateful to the spirit of poetry and to the spirit of this place. I have a connection to this part of the world, and I actually taught here for a while, and one of my favorite smells in the world is the desert here after the rain. Yeah. So as we say, hens jay stongo in the Muskogee language. I'm a member of the Muskogee people from originally the southeast part of the U.S., and which includes into Florida, Alabama, Georgia, and then we were moved, most of us, to what's now known as Oklahoma or Indian Territory, but we're still very much alive. The language is going on, the ceremonial life, and we're all here. So I'm going to start out with Eagle Poem, because I like to start out with that. It's kind of a blessing poem, but you have a blessing tree out there too, a greasewood tree out there that's quite incredible. And if you come over to this part, to come over to the performing arts area, you're going to go by that tree, and it's an amazing tree. So I want to say thanks to the tree and to this beautiful earth that gives us so much. And Eagle Poem, in honor of the messages that we get from those who inspire us to write poetry, to dance, to make art, to perform art, inspire us to be part of it. To pray, you open your whole self to sky, to earth, to sun, to moon, to one whole voice that is you. And know there is more that you can't see, can't hear, can't know, except in moments steadily growing, and in languages that aren't always sound, but other circles of motion. Like eagle that Sunday morning over Salt River, circled in blue sky and wind, swept our hearts clean with sacred wings. We see you. see ourselves, and know that we must take the utmost care and kindness in all things. Breathe in, knowing we are made of all this, and breathe, knowing we are truly blessed because we were born and die soon within a true circle of motion. Like eagle, rounding out the morning inside us, we pray that it will be done in beauty, in beauty, in beauty, in beauty, in beauty, in beauty. I'll see if I can remember this one. This is called My House is the Red Earth. I realized, too, that I wrote that Eagle poem was written in Arizona. And this next poem, My House is the Red Earth, was part of a project done with the photographer Stephen Strom. And he took these incredible photographs of places I had been before. And these poetic prose pieces came out of that. So I'm going to play a little bit as part of this, in honor of this moment in time. A difficult moment in time. And if we keep our minds inside our digital play toys and all, it is going to drive us crazy, and we will get lost in falsehoods, in all kinds of different worlds that are set up, meant to destroy us and separate us. But what will keep us together is coming together like this to support the young people, to support artists, to support our souls, to support our hearts, and to go out into the earth, because that's who we are. If you look at the earth from the moon, we're one person. It's all about context and perspective. When you look at the earth that way, there aren't any borders at all. My house is the red earth. It could be the center of the world. I've heard New York, Paris, Tokyo called the center of the world, but I say it's magnificently humble. You could drive by and miss it. Radio waves can obscure it. Words cannot construct it, for there are some sounds left to sacred, wordless form. Like that fool crow picking through trash near the corral, understands the center of the world as greasy scraps of fat. Just ask him. He doesn't have to say that the earth has turned scarlet through fierce belief after centuries of heartbreak and laughter. He perches on the blue bowl of the sky and laughs. If you look with the mind of the swirling earth near shipwreck, you become the land beautiful. And understand how 3 crows at the edge of the highway laughing become 3 crows at the edge of the world laughing. Don't bother the earth spirit who lives here. She is working on a story, and it's the oldest story in the world, and it is delicate, changing. If she sees you watching, she'll invite you in for coffee, give you warm bread, and you will be obligated to stay and listen. But this is no ordinary story. You will have to endure earthquakes, lightning, the deaths of all those you love, the most blinding beauty. It's a story so compelling you may never want to leave. This is how she traps you. See that stone finger over there? That is the only one who ever escaped. So I grew up in Tulsa, Oklahoma, which is, Tulsa is Muskogee Creek lands. The whole city, there's a map that I have on order that has all of the allotted lands with everybody's name on them. So that is part of our territory. And then I wound up in the Southwest. I went to the Institute of American Indian Arts for boarding school in Santa Fe, New Mexico, when it was still over on Cerrillos Road. And it was a Bureau of Indian Affairs school with mostly high school and some postgraduate. And we were still in our classrooms, and I remember taking English in a classroom in which stoves lined the wall. And just a few years ago, those stoves had been used as part of the curriculum to teach the young women students how to clean and cook for people in town. That was, and then we still had the dairy barns outside where the young men were taught dairy farming. But I went during a revolution there, an arts revolution, where we were taught arts, and that was the main curriculum. And no, I didn't take poetry there. I wrote some horrible songs for an all-native acid rock band. But I got in because of my drawings. I got in, you had to apply. I got in because of my drawings, but you have to watch the word never. I said, I will never get on a stage, as I was signing up to take drama with my friend Belinda Gonzalez. And wound up in one of the first all-native drama and dance troupes. So you have to watch that word. So this is... also I wanted to say, like the poem, My House is the Red Earth, when I didn't start writing poetry until I was at the University of New Mexico as an undergrad, and part of the Kiva Club, very politically active. It had been started as a social club for Native students at the university, and it became, because all of us are responsible for what's going on in the world, so it's important that we know, and our students know, that we're all part of it, that what we do, how we act to each other, and how we speak, and our education all has something to do with this way this world is changing and what we do with it. And so I got quite an education that way in organizing with other Native students and talking about issues, and realizing that our school community wasn't just the school, but it was also the neighbors. It was also the city of Albuquerque. It was also all the different peoples, and we made alliances with different groups, and it was our communities at home. It was all of us. So I started learning Navajo language at school, and so it really influenced. I write in the English language, and I've started writing some in Muskogee, and I might read that one later. And but my early poems, well, they still are, because that is a beautiful language. And My House is a Red Earth was influenced by that language. I think as it was Eagle Poem, obviously, too. But in our tribe, with our people, the trickster figure isn't coyote, or for some people it's spider, but it's rabbit. And so this is, so we have a lot of rabbit stories, and rabbit is like is a transformer and a clown and trickster, and we all have those in our cultures. Usually, there's usually a place where the leader stands or sits, and then we have the clowns to kind of offset that. But it looks like in our government now things have gotten a little mixed up. But this is a rabbit story about how we got to this place. In a world long before this one, there was enough for everyone until somebody got out of line. We heard it was a rabbit, fooling around with clay in the wind. Everybody was tired of his tricks and no one would play with him, and he was lonely in this world. So Rabbit thought to make a person. And when he blew into the mouth of that crude figure to see what would happen, the clay man stood up. Rabbit showed the clay man how to steal a chicken. The clay man obeyed. Then he showed him how to steal corn. The clay man obeyed. Then he showed him how to steal someone else's wife, and that clay man obeyed. Rabbit felt important and powerful, and clay man felt important and powerful, and once that clay man started, he could not stop. Once he took that chicken, he wanted all the chickens. Once he took that corn, he wanted all the corn, and once he took that wife, well, he wanted all the wives. He was insatiable. Then he had a taste of gold. He wanted all the gold. Soon it was land or anything else he saw. His wanting only made him want more. Soon it was countries, then it was trade. The wanting infected the earth. We lost track of the purpose and meaning of life. We began to forget our songs, our stories. We could no longer see or hear our ancestors or talk with each other across the kitchen table. Forests were being mowed down all over the world to make more. And Rabbit had no place left to play. Rabbit's trick had backfired. Rabbit tried to call the clay man back, but when that clay man wouldn't listen, Rabbit realized he'd made a clay man with no ears. I'm gonna stick this little love poem in here just because it's fall. And I wanted my husband, he was supposed to be here. I wanted him to come too. And then I'm thinking of the smell of rain. And when I can smell rain in this poem. And so it's a little love song on a fall day. It is a dark fall day. The earth is slightly damp with rain. I hear a jay. The cry is blue. I have found you in the story again. Is there another word for divine? I need a song that will keep sky open in my mind. If I think behind me, I might break. If I think forward, I lose now. Forever will be a day like this, strung perfectly on the necklace of days, slightly overcast, yellow leaves, your jacket hanging in the hallway next to mine. This poem is from way up north. I have a lot of family around here in this part of the world, and then I have people up north too in the Alaska area who are family. And I went up to visit, and this poem came, it's called Spirit Walking in the Tundra. And I was outside of Nome. I came up to Nome and was picked up by my friend Mary Jane Litchford, who is, she's a really good poet. And so she picked me up, and so we were going around to all these places, and she took me to the, over to see the walrus hunters taking off, and over to these other camps. And then we went to her house, and she had to go to work the next morning, but I watched her son. He had just gotten home he was a student at University of Alaska in Juneau. And it's the first time I ever watched somebody go to all these levels in he was playing one of those video games. And I began to understand the attraction of it, because he was really good, and I got really caught up in it. And then I thought, you know what? It was going on for hours, and I said, we better go outside. It was so beautiful out there. So we went out, and we took plus I wanted to ride that three-wheeler. Yeah. So we went up, and there was still snow. Spring was out there, we drove way out there and went walking and saw musk ox and talked. We did a lot of talking. And spirit walking in the tundra. All the way to Nome, I trace the shadow of the plane as it walks over turquoise lakes made by late spring breakup of the Bering Sea. The plane is so heavy with cargo load it vibrates our bones, like the pressure made by light cracking ice. Below I see pockets of marrow where seabirds nest. Mothers are so protective they will dive humans. I walk from the tarmac and I am met by an old friend. We drive to the launching place and see walrus hunters set out toward the sea. We swing to the summer camps where seal hangs on drying frames. She takes me home. I watch her son play video games on break from the university. This is what it feels like, says her son as we walk up tundra toward a herd of musk ox when you spirit walk. There is a shaking, and then you are in mystery. Little purple flowers come up from the permafrost. A newborn musk ox staggers around its mother's legs. I smell the approach of someone with clean thoughts. She is wearing designs like flowers and a fur of ice. She carries a basket and digging implements. Her smell is sweet like blossoms coming up through the snow. The spirit of the tundra stands with us, and we collect sunlight together. We are refreshed by small winds. We do not need history and books to tell us who we are or where we come from, I remind him. Up here, we are near the opening in the earth's head, the space where the spirit leaves and returns. Up here, the edge between life and death is thinner than dried animal bladder. So I was thinking as I read that, every poem has ancestors. I even taught a class last year called Poetry Ancestors for undergrads. And all you need to do for poetry ancestors is have everybody, you can have math ancestors. We all have, there's math ancestors, there's sociology ancestors, there's ancestors for any discipline. You just bring one poem in, and then you start finding all the connections. There's a genealogy of sorts. And so that poem, as I was reading it, I started thinking, of Ophelia Zapata, who I've worked alongside and been friends with for a long time, and I know her poetry. And I kept thinking, as I read that poem wouldn't have happened without her poems about the digging stick with the rain and with the rain clouds and so on. So I want to say, Meadow, thank you, Ophelia, for all that you've done for poetry and our languages and for this community. Since I'm on rain, I'm going to read this poem because I wrote it here in Tucson, and then it's going to get a little heavy for a while. But yeah, I wrote this one. I wrote it when my daughter was turning 14. And, you know, it's one of those power. We have times of great, intense power in our lives, and power can be difficult to handle. And it's not what you would think. It has nothing to do with awards, although it can be. But it's usually, birth is one of those points. It's an entrance point from one world into another. And so there's a lot of intense power that happens at that point. So that at birth, and I've been at births, certainly my own, but my my children and some of my grandchildren, and death is always just as present. They're a team. You come to realize that they're standing there together. And I've also been present at death, and that's another place of great power, and helped midwife my mother into the other world. And what was so amazing is there was birth. I was handing her off. It was like a birth. It was quite amazing and terrible and sad and beautiful all at once. And another time is at around 7 when a child is a time of great power, because the child is saying, okay, here's the house. This is the mother, you know, and often that's when the boys go off and hang out with their dads a lot, or, you know, they find out, they go to school, they make their own friends. They start making their own communities, in a way. And another one is around, you know, is adolescence. When you're turning, it is an incredible transformation when you're turning from, I was to say, a boy to a man, etc., girl to a woman. You know, you're moving from childhood into adulthood. It's an amazing transformation. And it can be very bumpy. So it's a time of great power. And I was watching my daughter, and I knew all that could befall her because I know what I went through. And so I wrote this poem because poems are like energetic places. You know, they can hold the spirit of a place or an idea or a sound or a smell of rain. And so I wrote this poem so that my daughter, and I could see that it was going to be a little rough at times. I bet I also saw that she would get through it. She's a beautiful young woman with several children, a wonderful artist with beadwork, and she's also a really fine poet. But I was thinking of the day she was born in Albuquerque, New Mexico, when everyone was wishing for rain. So her name is Rainy Dawn, and I also think of this as a poem to bring rain if you need it. I probably wouldn't read it in Ketchikan, Alaska, yeah, or other places where they don't want a lot more rain. I can still close my eyes and open them 4 floors up, looking south and west from the hospital, the approximate direction of Acoma, and farther on to the roofs of the houses of the gods who have learned there are no endings, only beginnings. That day, so hot, heat danced in waves off bright car tops. We both stood poised at that door from the east, listened for a long time to the sound of our grandmother's voices, the brushing wind of sacred wings, the rattle of raindrops in dry gourds. I had to participate in the dreaming of you into memory, cupped your head in the bowl of my body, as ancestors lined up to give you a name, made of their dreams cast once more into this stew of precious spirit and flesh, and let you go as I am letting you go once more in this ceremony of the living. And when you were born, I held you wet and unfolding like a butterfly newly born from the chrysalis of my body, and breathed with you as you breathed your first breath. Then was your promise to take it on like the rest of us, this immense journey for love, for rain. Now this is an Indian school poem, And even though it was the late 60s, you still couldn't speak your own language. You would get in trouble, although at one point I was rooming with all these Mescalero Apache girls, and I learned everybody would talk their language at night and listen for the dorm matron to come by. And this is called, I think, Indian School Night Song Blues. It's probably more of a monologue. And it's in the voice of a young girl at Indian school who is in the dorm on a Friday, Saturday night because of usually drinking or some other infraction, so you had to stay in. But then people would feel sorry for you and bring you things you were not supposed to have. And so this girl's a little high when she's talking. But there are so many artists, and yet there were so many stories because too, people came to that school, they said, well, troubled kids are often the best artists. So most of us were considered troubled kids. I'm still troubled about all this stuff that's going on. Indian School Night Song Blues. I called to order the meeting of the girls on restriction at Indian school, locked up in the dorm. We broke the rules. Now it's Saturday night. No booze, you lose. Music courtesy of KOMA, straight from Oklahoma City, across the plain of tears and fears, over the mountains to hear the city different. Indian school hippie crash. Remember, this is Santa Fe. Let's dance. Where's the dorm matron? Hide the stash. We all admire Marlene. She's one of the best. She's Jackson Pollock in a dress. She only leaves the painting studio for sleep or work, and on Sunday she sneaks out to the Indian hospital on the other side of campus. She took me once. The children clapped and laughed when we came in. She brought them gifts, all her desserts, saved up for a week. Crayons, paper, and tiny fans. We hid when the staff came in. They eventually threw her out. The hospital carried no insurance to cover the harm she might do. And Venus, now, that's a name and a history. One parent from the north on the back of a horse, the other from the south over the back of a river. Venus is a singer, a real singer. Each singer has a particular gift. Some grow plants, some call helpers, some heal the sick, some make the dead rise up and dance. When Venus sings, we enter into a trance. We no longer hurt from freak chants. You're going to make it to Broadway, either New York or Albuquerque. Mary, Mary, quite contrary, you were as silent as a mouse in the corner of the dining hall, chewing on stale American bread. We don't know who you are, where you've been. Maybe you're dead to this reality. None of us are coping well with the BIA. We've read the reports. Doesn't play well with others. Won't speak or look us in the eyes. Talks to ghosts. We hear what they're really saying. We have the guns and money, and we have your children. Mary's spirit is mostly underground with clay. When she's with us, she roams the halls in precise eyeglasses and bell-bottoms laced tight, and a stack of poetry in her arms. T.S. Eliot, she says, needed to put his hands in clay. She reads him every day, perched with her books outside the powwow circle. Where's Kip? We can't find Kip anywhere. She's not in the laundry room practicing powwow in her underwear. She's not on the roof where she sneaks her smokes, or she's not in that tent she made of government-issued bedspreads where she sketches high fashion of Indians in Paris. Here comes Kip with a knife. And there she goes. No top or bottom, only fury whirling in a spiritual nudity. She's headed out into the snow. She's what happens when somebody hurts the baby. We can corner our sheets so a quarter spins and know the drill for shots, debugging, and towels. We have a chance. This is a new one. It's called Running. I've been working. I realize I'm about 2/3 through a new book of poetry. And so I'm going back over some old territory, and I'm going to read several poems from that book, and then probably end with some Crazy Brave. This is called Running. Because I'm going back trying to make sense and understand of things from a different, every year you get a little bit of a different point of view or vantage point. And I think I'm also thinking about all of these, I guess the devaluation or the demeaning of women and all of these stories that are surfacing. And I think probably every woman I know has dealt with sexual, harassment in some way or the other. And just, we're all here together. There is supposed to be a balance between male and female and a respect. Running. It's closing time. Violence is my boyfriend with a cross to bear, hoisted on by the church. He wears it everywhere. There are no female deities in the Trinity. I don't know how I'm going to get out of here, said the flying fish to the tree. Last call. We've had it with history, we who look for vision here, in the Indian and Poetry Bar, somewhere to the left of hell. Now I have to find my way when there's a river to cross and no boat to get me there, when there appears to be no home at all. My father gone, chased by the stepfather's gun. Get out of here. I've gone and found my father at the bar. His ghost at least, some piece of him in this sorry place. The boyfriend's convincing to a crowd. Right now, he's the center of attention with the tales he tells. He's a spell of attraction. In the fog of hops, I wonder this sad world we've made with the enemy's words. The lights quiver. Like they do when the power's dwindling to a dangling string. It's time to go home. We are herded like rock-eating cattle, like children for the bombing drill, out the door into the dark street of this old Indian town, where there aren't any Indians anymore. I was afraid of the dark because then I could see everything. The truth with its eyes staring back at me. The mouth of the dark with its shiny moon teeth. No words, just a hiss and a snap. I could hear my heart hurting with my in-the-dark ears. I thought I could take it. Where was the party? It's been a century since we left with the American soldiers at our backs. The party had started up in the parking lot. He flew through the dark, broke my stride with a punch. I went down, then came up. I thought I could take being a girl with her heart in her arms. For justice, for Indians, we all had that cross to bear. It followed me, the quiet girl with the long dark hair, in the back of the back, the daughter of the warrior who wouldn't give up. I wasn't ready yet to fling free the cross of him on me. I ran and I ran through the 2 a.m. streets and no one came to catch me. It was my way of breaking free. I was anything but history. I was the wind. See, I told you it was going to get intense. But I think what I had to learn and why I'm still alive, because I went through a lot when I was younger, and I started to let the weight of that drag me down. And then I realized that I could turn it into something else, and it could be useful. You know, like the way you turn, like the shoes I have are made out of, they're old plastic bottles, turned into shoes, you know. You can take history that is meant to destroy you and make something hopeful out of it, and you know, a way to keep going. This poem is kind of like that. This is a new poem. It's called How to Write a Poem in a Time of War. And I keep thinking, it seems like there's always some kind of war going on. And I was watching all this news with the Syrians, and I saw that image, like a lot of us did, of those little twin baby girls that were just killed by a bomb sent for money, for hunger, blood hunger, for all the things that people do to hurt each other. And a lot of that just starts with the small injustices that build up, and then people start going after people they love, or think they make people into others. And this poem is also about, I accepted a position for a few years at the University of Tennessee in Knoxville, Eastern Tennessee. Well, that's part of our homelands. And like I told them they still hired me during my interview, yes. My grandfather, great-grandfather on my dad's side, got his warrior name because of all the times he came up here to Knoxville to steal horses. Because it was our land, they belonged to, they put them on our lands, That's how he thought about it. And so there's been a lot that's emerged from being there in that place. It's beautiful, but I've come into places. One time we went for a drive down near where Sequoia was born, and because it was creek lands, and even all those overhill Cherokee towns have creek names. And then the Cherokees came into that area a little later. But I remember going around one corner, we were going down this road, and the grief was just, and I realized it was a place that people gathered. And I went and looked stuff up after that, but it was a place people gathered for the Trail of Tears. It was just like all of you guys just being right now marched out of here, and then they line you up, and you have to go. And be careful. We have to be careful, because that could happen to it is starting to happen. These young people with the government trying to send people back away from their families. It's starting to happen, and we cannot let that happen to each other, because we're all family. We're all related. So there's kind of two voices here. There's a voice like saying, it's like the voice in your head when you're writing, thinking, and it starts off, you can't begin just anywhere, it's a wreck. And I was thinking, because my next memoir is going to be about historical memoir, because we carry those memories within us, and I'm thinking about those times. And then I'm thinking also about being part of Native rights movements and how to talk about that. And so I was thinking, well, how in the world do you begin with this? It's really a wreck. History is a wreck. But then what happens, and that's what I love about creating art, is I don't know where I'm going. And I wind up in a place, and I realize, and you'll hear where the poem winds up. It's in a place, and I realize that someone had planted a song way back, had planted a song in the children, and that's why my husband, who's also my tribe, that's how we wound up back there. How to write a poem in a time of war. You can't begin just anywhere. It's a wreck. Shrapnel in the eye of a house, a row of houses. There's a rat scrambling from light with fleshy trash in its mouth. A baby strapped to its mother's back, cut loose. Soldiers crawl the city, the river, the town, the village, the bedroom, our kitchen. They eat everything or burn it. They kill what they cannot take. They rape. What they cannot kill, they take. Rumors fall like rain, like bombs, like mother and father tears, like sunset slanting toward a moonless midnight, like a train blown free of its destination, like a seed fallen where there is no chance of trees or any place for birds to live. No, start here. Deer peer from the edge of the woods. We used to see woodpeckers the size of the sun, redbirds, and were greeted by chickadees with their good morning songs. We'd started to cook outside when it was slippery with dew and laughter. Oh, those smoky, sweet sunrises. We tried to pretend war wasn't going to happen, though they began building their houses all around us, demanding more. They started teaching our children their God story. a story in which we'd always be slaves. No, not here. You can't begin here. This memory is shredded because it is impossible to hold by words, even poetry. These memories were left here with the trees, the torn pocket of your daughter's hand-sewn dress, the sash, the lace, the baby's delicately beaded moccasin still connected to the foot, a young man's note of promise to his beloved. No, this is not the best place to begin. Everyone was asleep despite the distant bombs. Terror had become the familiar stranger. Our beloved twin girls curled up in their nightgowns next to their father and me. If we begin here, none of us will make it to the end of the poem. Someone has to make it out alive, a grandfather sang to his grandson, his granddaughter, as he blew his most powerful song into the hearts of the children. There it would be hidden from the soldiers, who would take them miles, rivers, mountains from the naval cord place of the origin story. He knew one day, far day, the grandchildren would return generations later over slick highways constructed over old trails through walls of laws meant to hamper or destroy. Over the libraries of the ancestors in the winds and stones. His song brought us to his home in these smoky hills. Begin here. And this poem, a love poem called Red Bird Love. It's about red bird love. And I watch the birds. There's a lot of birds that come out of those trees. And in the spring, you know, all the animals and some of the humans too go nuts over, it's mating season. People do strange things. Like one time we have, there's some turkeys that live up there where we live. And they were fighting over, we were trying to get out of the, I was, trying to get down the hill, and there they were blocking the road because these two guys were fighting over a girl. And she was over looking demurely at the side, egging them on, egging them on. And so anyway, so we had to wait for them to fight. So then we were watching the whole Redbird drama going on. And there was a young female that we had watched from being a baby, and she was so beautiful. She just had, nice markings, and we watched this whole courtship go down. So this is about that. We watched her grow up. She was the urgent chirper, fledgling flyer, and when spring rolled out its green, she'd grown into the most noticeable bird girl. Long-legged and just the right amount of blush tipping her wings, crest, and tail, and she knew it in the bird parade. We watched her strut. She owned her stuff. The males perked their armor, greased their wings, and flew skyloop missions to show off. For her, in the end, there is only one. Isn't that how it is for all of us? There's that one you circle back to for home. This morning, the young couple scavenged seeds on the patio. She is thickening with eggs. Their minds are busy with sticks the perfect size, tufts of fluff like dandelion and other pieces of soft. He steps aside for her so she can eat. Then we watch him fill his beak, walk tenderly to her, and kiss her with seed. The sacred world lifts up its head to notice. We are double, triple blessed. I'm going to read this section from Crazy Brave and then end with the poem Flintoputla, or Beyond. And then I guess we have a little bit of time for questions. Not that I have any answers. I mean, I think I have all the same questions you do. Why are we here? What does it mean? So this is the end of Crazy Brave. Actually, in my memoir, I wanted to begin the book at where it ended. I didn't want to write any of this. And I fought with the book for almost 14 years. And I thought I was 7 years behind contract on the book. But later, after I finally got it in, I went and looked at the contract and was horrified. It took me 14 years. Doesn't mean I wasn't doing anything. You know, I turned other books in and CDs and everything, but this one I struggled with because I didn't want to tell the story. And finally, when my editor at Norton said, well, we're calling the book in, meaning either you pay back the advance or, give us the manuscript. And I knew I had to do it. And I wrote about 3 books. And, but it wasn't, when it's right and when it's not quite right. There's just things and finally, I even got a version in she really liked, and I read it and thought, no, it's not right yet. So then I took it all apart and sent it back. She says, oh no, what did you do? And I said, I know where I'm going. And then it turned into this. But I didn't want to start here, but I'm going to read the last part of the book, the last few pages. And I was a student, and I know sometimes you get really stressed as a student. There's a lot, you're trying to make a living. A lot of people have jobs. I remember going to school full-time with 2 kids and by myself usually, and working, and then all of that. And then there's just other things. I mean, a lot of us, we carry those stories, our families, we're dealing with, we're challenging ourselves, and I was dealing with some things, and I wasn't sure how to deal with them. Though on the surface, I continued as a student who garnered scholarships and made excellent grades and was now beginning to publish my first poems in the university student magazine, I continued to struggle with panic. It was actually terror, kind of an inner terror that sometimes wouldn't leave me alone. I considered all the possible reasons: the mother-in-law witching, tribal history, the strangle of jealousy, from others, the banishment from my home, faltering into territory and offending spirits there. But no matter the reasoning, it remained a fact of my life. I recalled how the dream of the chase began around the time our father left home. It would begin with the sound just like the panic, like whirring bull roars making an eerie echo that traveled across time. And I would begin running. One night after writing my last paper for a class, I struggled in a sweaty, anxiety-ridden sleep. I was running, and then I was cornered in a room. I could not find my voice. In all of the years of the chase, I had never come to this place, because it was my voice that would pull me up out of that into this realm. One night after writing my last paper for a class, I struggled in a sweaty, I had heard a congested, snuffling breathing. The monster rose up before me. I saw him for the first time. The horror transfixed me. I had no room in my mind for such a being. I realized how tired I was of the chase, of all the years of the chase. Just when I was about to give up, the knowing reminded me that I knew how to fly. I thought, fly, and I leapt to the ceiling of the white room. I was safe. Then the monster flew up. There was nothing else I could do. With a sudden, unexpected grace, all the fear within me escaped. There was no panic. I was a lightness I had never experienced before in my life. The monster put his hand to me. It did not touch me. He disappeared. I was free. I carried that dream back through several layers of consciousness. And sometimes I do that in a dream. If I have something I want to remember, so I will go to different levels and say, okay, remember this, take it with you. And then I'll go into another dream, and then I'll say, remember that before, and take it with you, and keep going. I carried that dream back through several layers of consciousness to where I stood in the future with a stack of poems and a saxophone in my hands. That night I wrote this poem. It was one of my earliest poems. I release you, my beautiful and terrible fear, I release you. You are my beloved and hated twin, but now I don't know you as myself. I release you with all the pain I would know at the death of my children. You are not my blood anymore. I give you back to the soldiers who burned down my home, beheaded my children. I give you back to those who stole the food from our plates when we were starving. I release you, fear, because you hold these scenes in front of me, and I was born with eyes that can never close. I release you. I release you. I release you. I release you. I am not afraid to be angry. I am not afraid to rejoice. I am not afraid to be black. I am not afraid to be white. I am not afraid to be hungry. I am not afraid to be full. I am not afraid to be hated. I am not afraid to be loved, to be loved, to be loved, fear. Oh, you have choked me, but I gave you the leash. You have gutted me, but I gave you the knife. You have devoured me, but I laid myself across the fire. I take myself back, fear. You are not my shadow any longer. I won't hold you in my hands. You can't live in my ears, my voice, my belly, or in my heart. My heart, my heart. But come here, fear. I'm alive, and you are so afraid of dying. I want to say Mado for all of you and for all that it took to get something like this together. Can you imagine all the work that went into it and all the work that went into you even getting here? The gas money, yeah. You know, child care, et cetera, et cetera. So thank you. And for, I know Francisca and Rosalia, and there's so many, I've met so many people. There's student helpers, and then these wonderful young performers, Nayona Smith, Duran, Dante Figueroa, Watona Shorty, Juan Jose Delgado, all of it was really wonderful. I mean, I wish that would happen at all my performances. And so thank you, Meadow, for all of that. And I want to end with a poem called Beyond, or Tlintoputla, which I started writing in Muskogee language. And when you start doing that, especially with poetry, it does. I always learn so much about who we really are. So I'm going to read it in English, and I won't read all of it in Muskogee because I'm perfecting the reading, but I will end with some of the words in Muskogee language. Sosa linda putla haloja holway fulat oske ojigo yet mon atogya hatan no kufta jet hoyanaja pom yahegara pohet Ojakapias. Beyond sunrise there is a song we follow. Beyond clouds traveling with rain humped on their backs, lightning in their fists. Beyond the blue horizon where our ancestors appear bearing gifts wrapped in blankets woven with sun and strands of scarlet time. Beyond the footpaths we walk every day, from sunrise to kitchen to work to garden to play to sunrise to dark and back. Beyond where the baby sleeps, her breath a light mist of happiness, making a fine rainbow of becoming knowledgeable around us. Beyond the children learning alphabets and numbers, bent over their sticks and dolls as they play war and family, grow human paths. Beyond the grandmothers and grandfathers, their mothers and fathers, and in the marrow of their bones, to when that song was first sung, we traveled on. Beyond sunset, can you hear it? The shaking of shells, the drumming of feet, the singers singing, all of us, all at once. How deep the voices of earth and sky. In the song of beyond, how deep we are. Igana mon sara, imo panaka, and Yehegara, Sufkaras, Yehegara, Slinto Patla, Pomio, Sufka, Poniyit, Yehegis. I know.
Thank you so much. Thank you, everyone. So we do have time for a few questions, and we have a roving microphone, so please raise your hand if you would like to ask a question of Joy. And one quick academic shout out to Dr. Ofelia Zepeda, who is here from U of A, linguistics, renowned poet and Tono Atam champion. And I'm sure there's many others we've not been able to see and recognize, but we thank you all so much for being here. So please raise your hand if you would like to ask a question of Joy, and we will make sure the microphone finds you.
Yeah.
I was just kind of curious what inspired you to be able to go from that place where you had all that anxiety to being able to say that it doesn't have power over me anymore.
Yeah. It's a process. I mean, the poem, the thing I've learned about poetry is a lot of it is wiser, and I don't even know what I'm doing. But, I craft it, I take it, and I take care of it. And then there it is, and it's, I learned later, it's a poem I've had to keep learning from. It's something I needed. I was not wise enough as that young woman to write that poem. It was something wiser than me that came through. And so then it's the poem that I continue learning from. I've gone pretty much through that. Every once in a while that stuff will hit, but not, I've learned how it doesn't, it's not like, it doesn't take it, it was really taking over at that point.
Thank you. I think we have time for one more question.
Okay. Somebody right down here.
Hi. I just wonder how you deal with the fear of representation. I think Indigenous people, we have like a tremendous pressure to represent, and I'm just wondering how, as an artist, you overcome that.
Well, I always say I don't represent anybody else, but of course. I have been at a lot of meetings where I represent everybody who is, everybody, all the others, or women or so on. And ultimately you have to be, ultimately you have to be true to yourself. And then what is yourself? Well, ultimately, if you follow that, you'll find that yourself is everyone else. But ultimately, you have to be true to yourself in that place. And try to act with integrity, an integrity to how you experience the world. And, of course, I represent, I was telling Rosalia when we were driving from the airport that I used to get asked all the time, who is my audience? And people aren't asking that anymore, and I'm kind of relieved, because you can always make up different answers. But, now here I'm asking a question I don't want to answer, but who is your audience? And I think, or the other one too is, when you write, do you write as a native person, or do you, it's like, would you ask Philip Roth if he writes as a Jewish man? Why are they asking me these questions, Am I, because why is that? I write as, of course it comes through that. The poetry comes through, I'm a human being, and I'm a human being who's, trying to learn to listen. And the reason they gave me poetry, or poetry spirit came to me, is because I'm not a very good listener. And I've had to learn how to listen. I'm still learning how to listen. And that's really probably the root of all of your studies here, of learning to be an artist, whether it's one dealing directly with sound, which is poetry or music, but also anything else. It's about the plants. If you're going to learn about the plants in botany, you'd better learn how to listen to the plants, not just read about them in a book, you know. But yeah, there becomes pressure, and then I've noticed a lot of, and I think things come down from the top. I can go to an airline counter and I can tell you what the CEO is like, their likes and dislikes and how they act. And when you've got somebody heading up, what we've got going on now is somebody who is a bully and who's very divisive. That starts working its way even to places, even within us, when we think that we're beyond that, but it starts working its way into all of us, and we have to be careful of that, so that I've noticed divisiveness around, you know, in our communities, you know, and even over, there's all kinds of politics, and certainly tribal politics, we won't get into that, but, you know, like of who you are, or, you know, did you grow up in a reservation or not, then you're not Native if you did not grow up in a reservation. And then I said, well, this whole country's a reservation if you want to look at that, you know. The whole hemisphere. I've been lucky to travel all the way up and down, and it's Indian country, you know. And we take care, we're the caretakers of it, and all of us are, really. But I think pulling a saxophone in, I used to have terrible stage fright because, you know, when I first read, I could hold the pages up here and stand behind all of this, and then I started learning to play saxophone, probably when I was here, and you know, when you play a saxophone, you can't hide. That instrument is really rowdy, and so it helped me. I went through a lot of, I could do a whole talk on stage fright and how to get through that and the horrors and terrors I went through, but how I overcame that. But the saxophone helped that. But yeah, I mean, because there's phrasing, I noticed it did change because you're dealing with phrasing, and when you sing, when I started singing the poetry, some of it, and I usually sing some of the poems, it changes it.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, Karen.